Good morning, everyone. I am Dr. Rajni Gaur, Senior Assistant Professor in Jagannath Institute of Education, JIMS, Jamtech, Greater Noida. From my subject Gender, School and Society and the Unit 4, Gender Issues and Curriculum, I have chosen the topic Reproducing Gender in School through Curriculum. So, here in this lecture, I am going to tell you about the gender biases, this meaning of school, and how the curriculum played a role in reproducing gender in school. In this slide, I am telling you the meaning of gender and gender bias. Gender refers to culturally and socially constructed differences between the two sexes. It refers to the way society encourages and reaches the two sexes to behave differently through socialization. Now, the gender bias that refers to an equal treatment or perception of individual based on gender. It is a preference or prejudice towards one gender over the other. It can be conscious or unconscious thought that one gender is more powerful than the other. Definition of school. Students, the term school is derived from the two Greek words schola and schole, which means leisure. In ancient time in Greece, these words were referred to the places where people spend leisure time. According to J.S. Ross, schools are institutions devised by civilized man for the purpose of aiding in the preparation of the young for well-adjusted and efficient membership of society. Now next is meaning and definition of curriculum. As we know that education is a purposeful activity, so it fulfills its objectives with the help of curriculum. According to the Education Commission, curriculum is the totality of learning experiences that the school provides for the pupils through all the manifold activities in the school or outside that are carried on under its supervision. Now, what type of gender biases we have in schools? The Constitution of India has underscored the need to create a gender-sensitive society, which is not possible without a gender-sensitive educational system. There is gender discrimination commonly found in schools. It occurs in both formal and informal ways. Gender inequality in schools exists in different ways, which are as follows. First is access to schools. While access to primary school is granted automatically to girls, their access to secondary education is denied, and the first girls' secondary school was opened in Dunedin in 1871 after 15 years of first boys' secondary school. So was the case in India. Next is attendance. At present, there are many social, cultural, and economic barriers standing in the ways of girls attending schools. In spite of all the policies, and it is observed that the percentage of girls dropped out of school both at primary and secondary educational level is more than the boys. Next, we have low expectations. In schools and colleges, many girls are steered toward traditional but poorly paid and relatively low status employment. Boys are encouraged with high aspirations as compared to the girls. Next is limited learning. In the early 20th century, that we know the perception of women's role in the society and the family begin to shape the primary and secondary curriculum to a greater extent. A servant shortage and a fear about higher education as unfitting for women This fear about higher education as unfitting for women but for marriage and motherhood led to domestic science becoming compulsory subject for all the girls from 1917. And in technical schools, they were also taught domestic skills, the limited scope of the education to girls. Next is difficult and expensive subject. Girls were not allowed to opt for some special subjects like mathematics, physics, engineering, medical, etc., which were identified as too expensive for girls. Science subjects were also less likely to be taught in girls' school because of the expenses of labs and equipments, which is really unfair and injustice with the girls. Next is lower female literacy rate. According to the census 2011, the female literacy rate is 65.46% as compared to the male literacy rate, which is 82.1%. This shows the gender bias against the girl, and that the literacy rate difference is about to be 18 to 19%. Next is dropout rate. The dropout rate from school education at secondary or the higher secondary level of girls is more than the boys. They drop their education in between for some or other reasons, which is not found much in case of boys. Next is a school socialization. In schools, teachers socialize girls towards a feminine ideal. Girls are praised for being neat, quiet, and calm, whereas boys are encouraged to think independently, be active, and speak up. This kind of difference is created by teachers knowingly or unknowingly, or consciously or unconsciously. Definitely it creates problem for the girls and creates gender. Special services. Learning disabilities in case of boys are frequently and seriously taken by the parents and school as compared to the girls students. Girls who sit quietly are ignored, and boys who act out are placed in special programs that may not meet their needs. And the last is teachers' biases. Teachers are generally unaware of their own biased teaching behavior because they are simply teaching how they were taught, and the subtle gender inequalities found in teaching material too, which is overlooked by the teacher sometime, and that type of biases always create problems to the students, to the girls students basically. Now, what type of biases are there that emerges in the curriculum? School material are from objective, and therefore biases emerge. Curriculum from around the world indicate that females are underrepresented and that both males and females are depicted in gender stereotyped ways. The biases that emerge in curriculum are: first is stereotyping. When rigid roles or traits are assigned to all members of a group, a stereotype is born which describes individual attributes and differences. Next is imbalance and selectivity. Curriculum sometimes present only one interpretation of an issue, event, or group of simplifying and distorting complex topics by the omitting other perspective. Next, move on to the next issue, that is invisibility. When groups or events are not taught in schools, they become a part of the null curriculum, and these are deliberately left over or minor attention is given to them. Next, we have unreality. That means curriculum material often paints an illusionary picture of the country. For example, our history texts often ignored class differences, continuing the racial, religious, and sexist discrimination, etc. Next one is the fragmentation. A text may place information about women in a special box or insert separating the discussion from the main narration. Linguistic bias, it is also very common. A language can be powerful conveyor of bias in both blatant and subtle form. The exclusive use of masculine terms and pronouns, for example, forefathers, mankind, businessman, etc., denies recognition for women. And the last one is the cosmetic bias. It offers an illusion of equity. Beyond the glitz and glamour, gender bias persists in the society, in school, and as well as through curriculum. But what are the strategies we can opt for change in curriculum planning? So, gender equitable material may be developed and incorporated in the present syllabus, which may help students to have more gender balanced knowledge, to develop more flexible attitude towards gender roles, and to imitate role behaviors as curriculum planners need to employ inclusive language in curriculum development because students' thoughts are influenced by language, which may result in the development of our vision of non-discriminatory world. There is a serious need to avoid stereotyping men and women in all aspects of curriculum. Gender should be mainstreamed into curriculum by incorporating the perspective and experiences of both boys and girls. A common curriculum for topics that directly influence students' life, including gender, sexuality, human rights, and skills. Skill education, which use participatory teaching approaches, should be included at primary school level. There are 6 attributes that need to be considered when trying to establish a gender equitable curriculum. Curriculum departments and curriculum developers should provide mandatory gender equity resources modules to both in-service teachers, and gender bias needs to be addressed with all pre-service teachers too. Thank you, students. Hope this lecture helps you to know the role of curriculum and how the curriculum helps the policy makers to rethink over and to redesign the curriculum according to the need of both the genders like male and female. Thank you.